selecting us to be the sons and daughters of liberation. In the name of God, our ancestors, we pray.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Oh, I feel like I'm in front of my class. All right. First of all, even though some of my class, my students are here. First of all, I do want to make sure that you understand how important it is and how generous it is for Pastor Sampson, Pastor Dr. Elder Sampson, to open the church, this room, the Garvey Hall, to us. And so I do want to formally thank you, and I think we should offer you. And for your generosity and graciousness, I do have a box of free books I'm going to leave with you.
You can autograph mine.
I didn't write it.
No, but you are the mail person who brings
Yes, sir. Like the postman on the postman. We're going to have two reports this evening. Mine will be the second report, but you may or may not know that several weeks ago, when we were in Libya with our delegation, the United States was being viewed and looked at by the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Housing. And once again, Pastor Sampson had opened the church. They had the town hall meeting here, and that visit and tour of Chicago for the Special Rapporteur was actually spearheaded by Brother Willie J.R. Fleming, who will give the report on the findings. He will give a brief report of about 10 minutes of the findings, because we have to be on time, of the Special Rapporteur. And I think you need to pay close attention. It's also online, but it's important, because for those of you who may or may not remember, last year, we had the Special Rapporteur from the United Nations here on racism. And he studied, Dr. Dudu Dien, he studied racism. His report was searing, and the questions, of course, were, does racism exist in the United States? And of course, we would have answered it for him in the affirmative, but he had to find out for himself, and he did. So now, this year, we had a second visit by a Special Rapporteur from the United Nations. And so JR will break that down for us, and so at this point, I'd like to introduce to you Brother Willie J.R.
I'd like to kick it off like this. I need some audience participation, because as many times as I did this before, I somehow still get nervous. So let me try to. I'm gonna say hear me, and y'all say right. So I like to see what the energy is. Hear me, right. Hear me, right. I'm gonna say self. You say determination. Self, determination. Self, determination. I'm ready. This has been a long fight. We went to the United Nations way long before my time. Brother Martin talked about it, Brother Malcolm talked about it. The result. Well, it took an economic crisis, not the demolition, just the demolition of public housing, but it took an economic crisis. A large number of people of the middle class for the United Nations actually to care. Because when this fight against the poor people, or as our terminology is the war on the poor, has been taking place. But because of the economic crisis and foreclosure that existed in America, the United Nations was curious to see what type of plan the United States was going to come up, what type of emergency response they would have to a crisis, because you need an emergency response to a crisis. So they petitioned the Obama administration, which they petitioned the Bush administration, and to no avail, they couldn't come. Well, Obama accepted the invitation, not knowing what the results and findings would be. No one had a clear idea what the findings would be, because as you know, nobody likes to say human rights abuses or violation takes place in America. There was only two other times when the United Nations found human rights abuses in America. One, thanks to Sister Patty, their organization worked with John Burge, where that was an individual that represented a city entity or an agency of the government. The second time was because of a man-made or a natural disaster that some, like us, know to be man-made, and that was down there in New Orleans with Hurricane Katrina. But in the totality of government, they never found a whole government guilty of anything. So in this report, During her 18-day fact-finding mission, the UN expert met with senior government officials at the local, state, and federal level, at the Department of State, at the Department of Housing and Urban Development, among others. She held public town hall meetings, which one was held right here in this building. Once again, thanks to Reverend Al Sampson. The significance of that was when no agency, city, non-for-profit, community, college institution welcomed her to have this town hall hearing. And Brother Al came through in the final, in 11 hours, for real, seriously. It was to the point where we couldn't find nowhere to host her, to have her give testimony from citizens of Chicago. She held public town hall meetings in each city she visited, which was 6 cities: New Orleans, Chicago, New York, Washington, D.C., Pines Ridge, and Los Angeles. She met with a strong network of non-government organizations. We are one of them. Hundreds of residents, public housing residents, Section 8 residents, foreclosed, or people facing foreclosure, and the homeless community. In this report, it says, in total, I was welcomed, in her words, I was welcomed everywhere I visited by government officials, civil society, and residents themselves in communities across the nation. My feelings after this trip is that everyone is engaged in trying to effectively address the serious affordable housing crisis that the nation is facing. I encountered a strong network of vibrant communities and nonprofit organizations, a highly organized civil society, and committed government officials working to optimize housing policies and practices. Some of that I disagree with. Committed government officials, not in Chicago. The U.S. has a long-standing and established history of commitment to decent, safe, and affordable housing, dating back to the National Housing Act of 1934. So out of that, this is what she was saying. She met with the State Department, Department of HUD, and she tried to get an understanding of how America worked then, how it worked then, and how it works now. She said in the 1930s, when we created our Public Works Agreement, or known as the PWA, which gave us public housing and a bunch of other social programs, this was an agenda, a program, an avenue that they pursued. The United States went after this, they created this way of addressing foreclosure, homelessness, unemployment. We was coming back for a war during the Depression, so all of this was necessary. She said it was funny because this ideology never got exported out to the rest of the world during that time. But when you look at today's models of housing, what they did export was that we needed to demolish public housing across the globe, which is known as social housing over there. At the same time, we needed to increase home ownership. Some of these policies are mandated by the World Bank, the IMF, and UN Habitat. She thought it was disturbing that most of Western Europe, after the foreclosure crisis and the housing crisis hit, and then the economic crisis hit, most governments in Western Europe took a lot of their money, almost 2/3 of their budget, and started putting it into the social housing program to stop an uprising or civil revolutions from taking place in their nation. Because without housing, people tend to act crazy, she said. People go crazy, they cannot protect their family. Well, she thought it was interesting in America how content people were during this crisis. She was like, no disrespect to the organizers or organizations who did the organizing for these town halls across the nation. It's almost as if people have given up hope. Less than 1 year after putting all of their hope, and she took this from Dudu, he said it himself, that a lot of hope was put on the shoulders of Obama, that when he was elected, that there would be no more racism in America. There would be no more problem with black people in America. Poor people's going to be taken care of. Your ounces in the White House. Stop tripping, black folks, and wake up. Well, she thought it was disturbing that not a lot of people wanted to engage about this, that they had a lot of hope in Obama. And she thought she thought it was from the miseducation of the masses, she said. That we put too much faith in government and not enough in ourselves. She was short to the point that the United Nations was not going to save us. And you're looking at somebody who came from the streets, who gangbang, did it all. Hustle, legitimacy, I did it all. Proud father. But I put a lot of hope in the United Nations. I put a lot of hope in human rights. Because I was told this is where Brother Malcolm and Martin left off at. And that poor people and human rights went together. Well, after hearing this, she not only told me this, she told a lot of people in different cities and different town halls. It's going to come down to self-determination. It's going to come down to people enforcing their own human rights. In a report, she found the United States guilty of the subprime mortgage crisis, the economic crisis which followed led to increased unemployment and even greater need for affordable housing. This gap will continue to grow due to predatory equity and the impending foreclosure of multi-family housing buildings. The Obama administration has already committed significant resources to housing, addressing mortgage modification programs, neighborhood enhancement, and emergency recovery initiatives through the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. Additional funds for housing have been requested for the fiscal year 2010 budget. The policy goal of creating diverse and inclusive mixed neighborhood is a positive one, she said. So demolishing public housing wasn't a great idea, but the policy of creating mixed income community, she thought, was a great idea. However, an approach to housing redevelopment has overly emphasized housing as a real estate rather than as a basic social need. She feels the U.S. is guilty of looking at housing as a commodity and not as a human right. Putting the housing structure that we have in this nation in the hand of private institutions is a bad move. It's not just happening in housing, if I get off track for 1 second. It's happening with education and the healthcare industry. They are privatizing all of their responsibility. In short, the government is privatizing their federal responsibilities. The social problems, which have seemed to be concentrated in public housing, are complex and clearly do not occur only in public housing projects. These social problems often overshadow the fact that public housing development are also communities of families, neighbors, and friends with long-term social network. The stigmatization of public housing and government-assisted housing residents has led to residents being treated with contempt and disrespect for their basic human dignity. As in the case with the policies for homelessness, criminalization has been the main response to social problems and subsidized housing. Instead of focus on protection for those who are most vulnerable and designing solutions, tenant residents and community members have been excluded from decision-making processes regarding their housing and wider communities. She found them guilty of discrimination, guilty of accountability, transparency, and participation, guilty of public responsibility to provide for the needs of the most vulnerable. She found them guilty of Native American housing policy. Looking forward, she said her preliminary recommendations are: public resources should focus and provide for those in need of the most, public resources should focus and provide for the needs of the most vulnerable, including homeless people. The definition of homelessness needs to be further expanded to include all those who truly lack adequate and affordable housing. The federal government provides much higher levels of subsidies to high-income homeowners via tax exemption as compared to subsidies for low-income housing assistance. Low-income housing assistance should receive higher funding. With that being said, 3/4 of the federal budget for HUD is earmarked for home ownership, first-time home ownership, foreclosure intervention, and things of that nature. Only 1/4 of the federal budget in housing goes to public and assisted housing program. So usually people look at public housing and people on government assisted housing as welfare recipients. The biggest welfare recipients are first-time homeowners in Atlanta. And people are going to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac for homeowners assistance, because that's where most of their money goes. The criteria to distribute federal housing assistance should be based on a real survey of housing needs and should be distributed on a per capita basis. In some cases, the geographical area used to define area median income should be re-examined so that the income threshold and criteria accurately lead to access to affordable housing. She believed that they should preserve and upgrade the stock of subsidized housing while maintaining them at an affordable level. Ensure 1-for-1 replacement of public housing units within the same area. The reason being, and we thought that was the greatest recommendation, in mixed income communities, which she thought was a good model, 30% of the indigenous people in the community get to stay. You move in 30% of market renters who can afford, in our community, townhomes for $400,000 to $800,000. Don't know too many people of color that can afford that. Also, the other element of that is home ownership. In these communities, the people who rent, the people who own can barbecue. And because people of African descent are known to barbecue, they're not allowed because they're public housing residents. In these communities, these are policies, y'all. In these communities, for Thanksgiving, when people of African descent are known to gather in the masses for their holiday, usually they have a lot of guests who's not on their lease coming over, like your cousin, your aunt, your mom, people of that nature. And the mixed income community, that is not allowed. Every guest has to sign in and get permission from management to come. So right there was a discriminatory criteria. This is going on across the city, y'all. This is policy. It's called policy. Legislative mechanism should be passed in order to encourage the extension of expiring Section 8 units, as well as other expiring affordable housing programs. As you know, if you own a building, I'm not recommending this to black people, but white folks will exploit it. You can seek tax credits from the government, get federal subsidies from the government to fix up and rehab your building and rent it out to a Section 8 person. That's how long you gotta let them live. 1 year. It used to be that public housing residents can move into a unit and they can be there for a while. But at the end of every year, the landlord has the right to not renew your Section 8 lease. What that means for a lot of people, single mothers who come from public housing with children, is that their children don't have a stable education. They're going from community to community to community. So you're disrupting their children's life. Forget their life, but their children's life. You have no sense of culture. Because you cannot build that in the community that you're in. Relationship, a social network. All of that is destroyed via policy. We call it legislative genocide, and that's how we pretty much got their intent. New housing should be available for displaced residents before any unit is demolished. We ask in simple terms, we try to keep it simple with them. When they tore down Comiskey Park, what was that? South side. Comiskey Park, when they tore it down, they had built USA before they tore that down. Right. Because somebody that has something to play. But we thought, look at us like it's a game too. You know, look at us like baseball players. Don't tear down our house until you build my house. I want to trust that I'm gonna be able to move back into that house. So that was a great recommendation. Following the demolition or rehabilitation, residents' rights to return must be ensured to the area where new developments are located. CHA in the HUD had a nice policy that said, well, every resident has a right to return. But then when you look at the policy, you go, well, we say they can return to a new unit, we just said not in the community. That's how we stop displacement and forcible eviction. Because it's not just happening on the continent of Africa. Tenant protection legislation should be further strengthened for renters of foreclosed properties. The legislation was allowed for discriminatory criteria for access to subsidized housing, and grounds for eviction should be repealed. The discriminatory criteria we was talking about, it's offensive that 96, 97% of public housing leases are occupied by women of color, black women. It is discriminatory. Embedded in their policies, they break up black families because the black male is not allowed to be in the house with his girlfriend. Although we do encourage marriage, that's simply something we force on somebody. That's a work in progress. And that discourages a lot of brothers from even dealing with his children's mother because he feels she against him. African American males at the age of 15, 16, 17, when they're most vulnerable, are encouraged to get off their parents' lease. So the housing agency or housing authority recommends that the parents take their 16-year-old, 17-year-old, 15-year-old sons off their lease because they're going to be known to hang with drug dealers, gangbangers, and things of that nature. And if they caught hanging with somebody committing a crime, that is a one strike. You're gone. So this is how you break up the love for the black woman. Just to me, this is my interpretation of it. But I looked at the policy and I've been a victim of it. When you encourage your mother to get rid of her son, at the same time when she take him off that lease to save the rest of the children, he don't qualify for resident training programs. He don't have a physical address. He's not recognized as a resident. So he don't qualify for anything. And then he's vulnerable for trespassing charge to be criminalized because he's not on the lease. It's like we set him up for the prison industrial complex through policy. So she realized a lot of this was embedded in the policy. She said we need to create mechanisms to improve real direct participation of affected tenants in planning the decision-making process. Don't come to us with your plan. Include us when you have that thought to create a plan. This is her strongest recommendation. Public-private partnerships and housing development. She feels they really have to look at it. In some cases in the public housing community or in leadership in our communities in general, the people who are in leadership usually have some type of conflict of interest where they cannot represent the true rights of residents. Usually they're hired by the management company, hired by the housing authority, so that they rather protect their job and protect their community. And that's how you divide and conquer and get anything you want done. She feels that the Making Home Affordable program is addressing foreclosure prevention. Further measures are necessary to address at-risk mortgages in the medium and long term. Significantly increasing funding is required for Native American housing on the reservation. Some of the things she saw on the Native housing reservations you would think came from the 1900s, the conditions in which they was living. Some of these places don't even have indoor plumbing. This is 2000. So she thought that to be disturbed. Her greatest recommendation she gave us is not in this report, but Brother Spencer have it over there. He take the whole thing as it's on the storehouserights.org. She recommended, like I said, that we take self-determination upon ourselves. Like she said, here on this side she doesn't understand you have a group of homeless people, former taxpayers. On this side, you have a bunch of federal properties that have no occupants. So you have homeless people without housing, and you have housing without homeless people, and nothing in between. We have to make the connection. You know, I often joke, and this is where I'm at now, you know, and forgive me. I was told like this about human rights. Before you can apply to the United Nations, you have to go through this long, drawn-out process. It's called the exhaustion of domestic measures. It was a fight. We went to the Organization of Americans. Well, we went to the city, our alderman. We went to our county commissioners. We went to our state reps, our state senators. We went to our U.S. congressmen. We went to our U.S. senators. We went to the Housing Committee for Congress, the Senate Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs. We asked President Clinton before my time, and still asked President Clinton for an executive order. Then they asked first Bush for an executive order. They asked the other Bush for an executive order. They asked Obama for an executive order. We asked Hood for a moratorium on demolition of public housing. We asked Congress for one. They issued us one. They gave us one. Hood didn't implement it. The Senate didn't pass it. We exhausted all domestic measures, right? So we went to the UN. Finally, the UN came. They came, they found them guilty. Human rights violations right here. It's on the internet, it's all over the world. Media don't talk about it. So now we exhausted all international measures. Despite what you hear about me in the future, that I go to jail, when I go to jail, however I get to jail. Know that it's in my plan. I'm willing to. I know that's it's down the road. Because we're going to take back the land. We made up our mind. We have nothing to do about it. This was Tuesday when I got back to Chicago. Just let you know something spiritual was going on. When I touched down in Chicago Tuesday night, I got to a couple hours of sleep, woke up Wednesday morning, and looked at the email. Some of my buddies in the movement brought over brothers from South Africa. You could have laid this off. No, it wasn't planned. I haven't gotten about it. The brother had to be asphalt from the Cape Town anti-eviction campaign. And what they movement is about 40,000, 50,000 strong, 17 gangs came together in Cape Town, said you're not putting out my mama, my sister, my daughter, my aunt. They stopped their gang back and said they'll be the sacrifice. I pray to the ancestors, to what the Creator, to whoever I can, that we stop killing each other in Chicago and come together. You know what I'm saying? Because it's necessary. If my future and my present look like this, I can only imagine how my children's future look. Thank you.
Thank you, J.R. J.R. got a PhD in this, but he didn't get it from a university. All right, he got it from where it really counts. Now, I'm going to get into this. Before I do, I need to make two announcements. One is that I want you to connect these dots. We're trying to do something that is actually related. This was a UN piece on housing that ties directly into us going to Libya. There's another piece on this, though, on child soldiers and gangs. And we're going to do that forum on the 27th of November. I haven't requested a venue yet, but we know we're going to do it on the 27th because that is when all of our young people are home for Thanksgiving break in college. Everybody in here knows somebody in somebody's school somewhere. It is very important that we have that meeting and have a discussion on that level because it is totally 100% associated with this displacement. It's associated with this type of government. It's directly associated with the violence that is going on in our community. And my students are here from Northeastern who just did their midterm on child soldiers and gangs. And so they now have an appreciation of the similarities. Because I said the word child soldier, a lot of people are like, what are that? And I'm not going to tell you nothing else about that. Except on the 27th, make sure your email is on there because you're only going to know about this through an email list. I doubt if VON gives me any more time. I had to struggle for that today. Okay, so now, once again, the other announcement I'm making. Once again, I want to say thank you for coming and welcome. And I'm going to jump right into this because technically we have 45 minutes and it also includes your interaction. I don't give lectures except for at this college. We have conversation. So I know as I talk to this, you're going to have some things in your mind. Just, hey, Pat, ask the question. I can't guarantee you I have the answer, but I'll make a mental note to get an answer. All right. Late September, I received an email from former Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney. And the email basically just said, do you want to travel with me? And the word travel was all I needed to see. And right away before I could even respond back, yes. But let me first go back with my relationship with Cynthia McKinney. Many of you may or may not know that Cynthia McKinney I'm not going to go all the way back to her 12 years in Congress, but I will tell you this. Her father and she historically have been the only father-daughter to serve at the same time in the state legislature in Georgia. Anywhere, but they did it in Georgia. And a lot of people don't know that. So prior to Cynthia McKinney becoming this household word of that sister that punched that Capitol police officer, she was a state legislator in Georgia, of which her father, when she was in Jamaica, shortly after having a child, put her name on the ballot. She didn't even know. And she won, and for a period of time, they both served in the state legislature in Atlanta. Subsequently to that, she became a congresswoman until she spoke out too often, and I just say, go get the DVD, American Blackout, and you have the story. So anyway, I received this email from Cynthia, do you want to travel with me? Yeah, I opened it up, and she begins to talk about Libya. I'm going like, okay. A lot of people think I've already been to Africa. As a matter of fact, they think I've been several times. My children have been, but I haven't been. And I had committed to myself that I would not go to Africa until I had something to contribute. And I always thought the first place I would go in Africa would be West Africa. I just thought that's where I was going to go. Especially after researching my family tree and realized after getting all the documents that my father is from, or his father's people are from, my ancestors descend from Sierra Leone. So I thought I would be going there. So I received this invitation to go to Libya. And first I'm going like, wow, I just saw Muammar Gaddafi light up the UN. I mean, the brother said I've been in leadership for 40 years, y'all been here for 60, and I ain't never been here. But I'm coming here this time, and y'all gonna remember I was here. And I really like every time he said something, you do that little thing. And I'm listening to the interpreter. I said, he didn't say that. I could tell he was saying something else. So it did appear to be divine intervention. So subsequently I said yes. And it was about an invitation that she had received from the government of Libya, the leader, Muammar Gaddafi, to participate in the first international conference on the Green Book Society. Now, I've heard of the Green Book. I've heard of the Red Book. But I haven't heard of the Green Book in a long time. I'm like, oh, they have a conference? Fine. So, okay, fine. Initially, I think there were maybe 20 of us. And then we got another email over time that said that the conference had been postponed and my feathers dropped. I said, okay, I have to go another time. And then as I was preparing to prepare for another time, we received another email that says the conference is on, the original dates are intact, and so you got to hurry up and get yourself together to go. So the date of the first International Conference of Green Book Society supporters, Green Book Supporters Society, was October the 25th and October the 26th. One of the stipulations was, of course, we had to send our VTI. I didn't know what that was. I had to ask my daughter. I got a master's degree, she got a master's. What is that? So it's my resume. So they wanted that. The other is that if your passport has an Israeli stamp on it, you got to get a new passport. They would not accept you into the country with an Israeli stamp. And the other thing was we had to send our passports off to have them translated in Arabic. I didn't know that, but I did everything I was supposed to do because I'm going. So as time went on, we began to receive correspondence from the representative, a brother from Libya who lives in Paris, who actually, upon meeting him, I thought he was Ethiopian. And that's just to let you know of the range of color. So a lot of people, stereotype. But for those who don't know, Libya is in North Africa. One side is Algiers, another side is Egypt, and somewhere around is Morocco and all those other places. And it's a Muslim country. Of course, most of y'all know this is enlightened. Why am I telling you this? So upon receiving more correspondence, one of the things they wanted to make sure was that we had some type of orientation as to the Green Book, as to the society, as to the culture, and all of that. And so we started receiving stacks of papers. One of the initial stacks of papers I received was a list of the original members of the Green Book Society. And so I like to look, names and things like that. First thing was I remember them saying, it's a very chauvinistic country, and women have to be covered up, and Pat, only thing you cover as far as your head is a baseball cap, because y'all know 90% of the time I have on a baseball cap. So I said, well, okay, I'm not going to be insulted. I'm going to be as in tune as I'm supposed to be, because I have been kicked out of some of the best places. And I'm not going to Libya to embarrass anyone and be kicked out. And these are just little things that go through your head that I'm sharing with you. It was interesting to see on this list, and all of this you can get on the internet, is that the original members of the Green Book Society, approximately 100, I think it was 180 something people, most of them were men, but virtually all of them are from the continent of Africa. There's some from Greece, there's some from Spain, there's some from other places, but virtually all from Africa. And I thought that was fantastic. And then in the list shows their occupations and all this. Many are professors, many own businesses, and these things are listed on this. So I said, wow, this is something. This is a heavy intellectual group. So I had to brush up on that. As I go on, I also want to say before I forget, our delegation ended up being about 13 people that Cynthia met along the way during her campaign for president of the United States, representing the Green Party. And many of you know we brought her here several times, raised money, and supported her and voted for her. And tried to explain to people, for the first time in the history of the United States, black people could vote for a black man or a black woman. And I chose a black woman. With me tonight is one of the persons who actually was on a member of the delegation, before I forget, who flew in from New York because he did all our streaming. We did a lot of streaming live, and I'll give you, or somebody will give you the link because I think I forgot it. But Don DeMar, there he is, right here. This is a good white man. Very generous. He offered. He said, Pat, I want to make sure that you'll be streaming because we want to make sure that Libya knows that we're working and other people in the country need to know. So I'm going to rush through this. We get over there. We had to stop. No incidents in Chicago. No hassle getting out of the airport. It was like, Pat, you going out? Good. Get up out of over here. We get to Frankfurt. We had to stop over. I did not want to go to Frankfurt. I had a feeling that it would be difficult, and it was. I asked to have a stopover in Rome. That's where I wanted to go in case I could get some leather or something, you know, in the shop. But anyway, we had to stop over in Frankfurt, Germany. That's where all of our connecting flights were, and I hooked up with Don from New York, Brother Thomas Muhammad of the Black United Front in Houston, Brother Glenn Ford of the Black Agenda Report, Bob Fatakas, who was a Green Party candidate for governor in Ohio, Wayne Madsen, who is, we just say, from intelligence in Washington, D.C., and I think that was all that met in Frankfurt. But our delegation was 13, and Cynthia and I were the only females. So we get to Libya, everything is organized, they meet us, we don't speak the language obviously, it's just like anywhere else. You go into the airport and people are holding signs. Well, they had this real long scroll that was written in Arabic, but it was green. And it had the logo. And we knew, and now they were saying, and we said yeah. And so they facilitated everything, got us in the vehicles, and drove. No offense to anybody, but I thought going to Jamaica and riding in cars was bad. It was horrible. If a car could fit, they found their space. Lanes on the highway were inconsequential. It did not matter. And everything was about 70, 80 miles an hour. So we got to where we were on the first day and we had to meet. We walked in the door working. Even though it was somewhat of a vacation, we went there to work. And so when we got there for our first meeting, we were handed 2 sheets of paper. One had the schedule of the conference, and the other had 3 items on basic discussion topics for workshops. And these were the most important things, I think, these 3 topics were the most important things of that conference, and I'll get to it in a minute. So we had our meeting. The person who introduced, who was our more or less ambassador or liaison, pretty much laid out to us what to expect. Every continent was represented except for Antarctica. 91 countries were represented, which was equivalent to about 400 plus people. We were told that each delegation from each continent would give their presentation. Now remember, this is a conference on the Green Book Supportive Society, which means people either had to be familiar with it and also in some way attempting to implement aspects of the Green Book in some way in their lives. Cynthia McKinney was our spokesperson, and you can find her speech, I think it's still streaming, on the internet, and again, before I leave, you all will get the link. So the first continent to give a presentation was Africa. It wasn't necessarily in alphabetical order, because Australia was last. So Africa. The brother from Africa was from Senegal, and he gave it in French. There are 3 languages, just like in the United Nations, that are the official languages of the conference. French, in this case French, English, and Arabic. The next continent, and if I'm correct, I know I may not get it all in order, but anyway, was what? Oh, it was Africa, Venezuela, South America. Their representative was from Venezuela. China, their representative actually was a Muslim and spoke in Arabic. That was interesting. Australia, North America, Cynthia McKinney, and I think it was one more, because there was 6 representations. Cynthia McKinney's delivery, of course, was so powerful because she gave them an inside perspective of America that you don't see on VH1, that you don't see on CNN, that you don't see, and I say VH1 because they have VH1, they have to watch it in Arabic. So it was overwhelming. And when it was over, our entire delegation, of which we all came together and wrote a declaration that she read, we were just overwhelmed. People just came and swarmed us. Not so much because, we were all like dressed to the nine. It was that the message was so honest and so truthful, and we were not there attempting to just compliment. Oh, they just constantly would compliment Gaddafi. Sometimes you know when you're being patronized. And this was not that. So from that point on, we left and did other work, and then we had to meet again to write out the answers or to how we were going to do these 3 things. These were 3 charges that every delegation had. One was, what is the possibility of opening branches for the society in all countries where there are enough members to perform the intellectual and research tasks in accordance with the laws and regulations of the intended countries? In other words, how are we going to go about to systematically move this Green Book philosophy? And I'm going to get into it. Number 2, the possibility of opening academic departments in the universities, institutions, and research centers to teach the Green Book in all countries. And number 3, the mechanisms for liaison and cooperation with the international and regional institutions and organizations that are interested in human rights and man's basic freedoms that identify with the aims and the objectives of the World Green Book Supportive Society. Human rights and social probably are the 2 main themes all over the world except here. Okay, and I'll do this, I'm going to have to make a little comparison and contrast. So, let's talk about the Green Book. Most of you heard of the Green Book. There's only one thing that I want to clarify about the Green Book, and all of you will get it, is that, yes, Muammar Gaddafi is the author of the Green Book. And by the way, it's green for several reasons. The flag of Libya is green. It's a Muslim country, and the Quran, as Dennis confirmed, is green. And it's consistent with the spirit and the doctrine of that society. So quite naturally, it would be green. And that makes sense. But although Mr. Gaddafi is the author of the Green Book, the principles, and this is what I have to really stress, because in this country, black people, even though we are suffering, we are not very quick to let go of what is causing us to suffer. It's kind of like a battered woman. Like when I used to be the police, I said, look, woman, you got to leave him. He's beating you. And she would say, well, I know he only beat me when he gets drunk. If I leave him and get a new one, I don't know when he might beat me. But the point is, I know I'm going to be beat. And that's kind of like the mentality that we have. Well, I know they ain't treating me right over here, and this government is all messed up, and I know I'm still a slave. What if I go into something else? I mean, maybe I won't be a slave 365, maybe just 364 days. So I understand that. And we've been through this for many, many years, and it's called familiarity. But the principles that the Green Book philosophy are based upon are not Muammar Gaddafi's. The principles are actually based on the political theories and principles of ancient African constitutional law and the fundamental rights of the African people. Now, mind you, Mr. Gaddafi is the head of the African Union. So quite naturally, and he's an African, because I just told you Libya is in Africa, So quite naturally, it makes sense that the doctrine that he would come up with through his own interpretation would be based on that. Now, the irony of this is, and I happen to look that's my book, okay? And I had printed them in the back of my book that I wrote 4 or 5 years ago, whatever. But I remember reading Chancellor Williams' book, The Destruction of Black Civilization. It's in that book. And all I'm saying is, for a long time, modern writers, and I'm glad to be one of them, have been trying to convey to our people what we should be following. And these principles are over 5,000 years old. Over 5,000 years old. So what are those principles before I get into the Green Book? Well, how about the people are the first and final source of all power. The rights of the community of people are, and of right, ought to be superior to those of any individual, including chiefs and kings. The will of the people is supreme, is a supreme law. Chiefs and kings are under the law, not above it. Kings, chiefs, and elders are leaders, not rulers. They are the elected representatives of the people and instruments for executing their will. Now let's just bring it on up to this society. The president is a leader, but not a ruler. The mayor, contrary to what y'all believe daily, is really supposed to be a leader, not a ruler. Theoretically, if we were living in a society under these principles. Government and people are one and the same. What do we say? They, the government. Because in reality, this is translated now. In reality, government does mean they, but governance means we. Okay? We should be striving for governance, not government. And this is what the Green Book espouses, governance. Anybody know different? Y'all hear the thing called other people, by the people, for the people. That's governance. Government is self-determination. Government is when you elect individuals who you don't know, who don't know you, who don't live in your neighborhood, who don't even represent a significant amount of the population to make decisions over you. That's government. And now we kind of understand why things are kind of messed up. We know that most of the will of the people is not being met, heard, cared about, understood. Because your representatives, your 100 white men in Congress, okay, rolling birds, we got one, in the Senate, I'm sorry, and your 535 representatives. And how many people are there in the United States of America? That's 635 people, plus the president, 636. That's who runs the government. But we should be running the government because we are the government. So, basically, the Green Book, without, and I'm not trying to talk down, because I know, I'm looking around the room, there's some people in here heavier, much heavier than me, who could probably explain this a lot better, but I'm going to do it my way, is that the Green Book really is simplistic. It is written for the people. It is written for the people. And I think that was probably the greatest appreciation I had for going to Libya. Everything was about the people. The people knew it was about the people. They weren't walking around like, President, nothing we got to say. Everything was the leader, the thinker, the great philosopher. And at first, I will not lie, I didn't know who they were talking about. Because I just never would talk about folk in those kinds of terms. It was wonderful to be in a country where the billboards, they ain't trying to sell you something. I'm looking at billboards in green, the shape of Africa. Africa is love. We ride a little further. Africa is development. Ride a little further. Africa is hope. I said, I'm staying. This is what I'm talking about. And the billboards that I did see that didn't have these kind of, I had to go by the pictures because of course I don't read Arabic, were things that were very inspirational and motivational. They had their soccer team or their football team. They were acknowledging them. something about building babies, the ability for babies to learn. There was pictures, and I was asking our person what all this was. So imagine that, because you have to imagine, because it doesn't exist here. Turn on the TV. Only thing in English was CNN, right? That's all over. I'm waiting for the commercial break. I want to see what this is going to be like. Come to Palm City, various places. Where's the commercial? Because you're not in a capitalistic society, they ain't got to try to sell you nothing every 3 minutes. And that takes a little withdrawal. Because, you know, I turn commercials down. Most of you may or may not. But because the commercials are higher, the volume is higher. So I automatically turn them down, so I have to hear it, and I turn Law and Order back on. But the point that I'm making is, that took a little getting used to. The next stereotype, you say, well, you know, Pat, you know, the women can't be out. I said, you know, okay, I go to town. I'm looking at sisters shopping like everybody else shop. Okay? The only thing I did not see the women do was smoke. All the men, I mean, goodness gracious, all the men were smoking. And of course, their little cigarette stores. Alcohol? No. N-O. Like we have a liquor store every other foot? No, none. Because it's prohibited. Now, some folks just wouldn't make it. They just wouldn't make it. But believe it or not, you would make it. Because I didn't see any brothers and sisters, I have to tell you this. That's where the men are. You know how you walk around, you're like, where the brothers at? Somebody said they're in jail. Well, they're over there. Men everywhere. In public. Men. Cynthia and I were the only women in our delegation, so we had no conversations, you know, we could share. Men everywhere. Just getting used to it. I didn't approach them, it was just the idea, a sea of men. Their pants weren't hanging down. You know, they were walking. And I'm going to tell you, the common thing, and I've been to other countries, all over the world, men stand on corners. Men congregate. Over there, they holding hands. They got their arms around each other. You know, I prefer the man, okay, they get ready to kiss on the corner or what. No. But the point is, all of this, they were all very inspired. When I had conversations with them, you know, first thing they said, well, where are you from? I said, oh boy, if I say Chicago, they're either going to say Oprah Winfrey, Michael Jordan, or Al Capone. That's what you get. You know what they say? Oh, crime. I said, excuse me? Oh, games, crime. All of that is so bad, just on the sidebar, because I was waiting for this, because my girlfriend had just come from Egypt, and I was waiting for this one, because I knew I was going to handle it differently from her. She entered into Egypt, and she had some time to kill before her hotel, and she's very adventurous like myself. And so a young brother came to her. He says, oh, I take you around. She said, well, I need to go to my hotel, but I don't want to go fast, so show me this. I take you to my house. She said, oh, no, I can't go. Oh, no, it's okay. I take you to my house. You my nigga. You my nigga. She said, what? He's about 20-ish, and she's almost like 70-ish. And she said, son, what did you say? You know, you're my nigga. You're my nigga. She said, okay, I'll go to your house. Well, when she got to his house, she was hoping to see his mother. Because she was going to tell, like, you know, your son is calling me a nigga. And so she wasn't there. And she sat with him. She said, look, let me tell you something. You cannot call me that. That's bad. That's negative. That's insulting. He said, no. On the TV, you my nigga. So all of this hip-hop crap. And like the special rapporteur, we don't get upset. So he figured it's cool. So I'm going to Libya. I'm thinking like, oh no, please don't do that to me. I don't want to encounter anybody like that because I'm not going to handle it like her. I already know this. I don't know what the jails are like in Libya. So the point is, it was phenomenal. So we get ready to go to the first day of the conference. We go to the conference and we have the conference is held in an auditorium called the People's Hall. Everything is the people, I told you. And it's the People's Hall. And it's a huge auditorium where the stage is flat, but the seats where the secretary, there were 3 individuals sitting, it was slightly elevated. Everything is casual. You know, it's not like people get all jumped up just to have, I mean, they work. They work. So everybody gave their presentations and we left. Women go on one door, men go, just like if you visit the Nation of Islam. That's probably our only orientation to Muslim society here. And so there were certain things. Again, the flavor. So now we wonder, are we going to meet Mr. Gaddafi? Everybody's asking, because we only have 2 days left. And as I was telling some people with my police training, the way they were being secretive, I said, yeah, we're going to meet him. We're going to meet him now. I don't understand Arabic, but I know we're going to meet him now. So we were told to get up early. One of the things I don't like, you get up early, you rush, to hurry up, to wait. Hurry up, we got to be there, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. Then you rush and everybody's chilling. Just walking around. No big deal, you hear it now. We'll get to it, okay? We go to where Mr. Gaddafi resides, at least I think it's one of the places. I don't know if there are others. We weren't allowed to see everywhere we were going. The buses had curtains on them. I didn't accept that because I felt like I don't know the streets anyway, and I'm not going to do them any harm. I'm just kind of paranoid about riding on the buses. I can't see out the window. So I kind of opened the curtains. And that was okay until we got to an area where we were met by military with very large weapons in fatigues. And some of us were taking pictures, and they got on the bus and told us we could not take pictures. So we didn't take any more pictures. When we went through the process, it's like you go through it's not very open, there's a lot of high gates or whatever, and then you get into an opening, and everything opens up, and we enter into what was really a tent. Now mind you, a tent with chandeliers, wall-to-wall carpeting, central air conditioning. And I'm saying, okay. Now how you're seated here, you came in and the door is there. There, you come in and you turn and everybody's facing the entrance. So you see everybody coming in. Now mind you, I told you that virtually most of the participants were Africans. Africans are the same all over the world. You talking about styling and profiling? We're talking about from Ghana to Kenya, a couple of them. I live in Obama's village. Of course, we had those. And he probably did, but it didn't make me any difference. I don't know where it is, right? But we had every hue, every style, every color clothing. You all have to understand, I like style. I like that. I mean, I'm an African. And you know, Sister Cynthia is a sister. I was like, girl, that is sharp. And she, literally. So we wait. And we wait. And we wait. And we wait. 3 hours. But we weren't leaving. And at some point, Mr. Gaddafi comes after he exited his little electric car that he was chauffeuring. And, you know, he comes in, utmost respect. We knew we were to stand and we knew we were to clap, but I didn't know that we would just keep clapping and on and on and on. And we clapping and we were clapping. And I wasn't like tired. I just never really seen that long applause. And very humble, very humble, very humble. Only disappointment was I did want to see him dressed the way he was dressed at the UN. But he was, I guess, comfortable and wanted to ingratiate us in terms of being more on our level. So he was dressed more or less in a white suit and a green shirt. Remember that. Didn't have on a coat or hat or anything. So he spoke in Arabic. Of course, you have the earphones and the thing where you turn to the channel and you get the interpretation, just like the United Nations. Initially, he said, he greeted us and said if he speaks longer than an hour, when 12 noon comes, he would stop because it was a day of commemoration and that we would have to take a moment of silence. And the commemoration was acknowledging Libya's freedom from colonization from Italy. And he went on to tell us about how Italy had come into Libya and destroyed the people and treated them inhumanely and this and that. But he also went to say that the Italians took care of Mussolini. They drugged him through the streets and they did this and do that. And he was so humble because he didn't tell us that they just received $5 billion last year of reparations from Italy. $5 billion. So all of us who are seeking reparations, we can take a lesson. They have their reparations. A black country has their reparations. We need to understand it. Don't let nobody tell you can't get it. And $5 billion is a pretty good sum of money. So we did, he did speak beyond the hour, so we did take that moment of silence. And he did speak maybe about 30 minutes after that. And he constantly reassured us about the future. He warned us of what we would encounter. He told us of the propaganda, that people are going to say you're trying to push a new religion on them. He said, no. You know who he sounded like? When I listened to Maulana Karenga try to explain Kwanzaa to people for 20 years, this is not a religion. This ain't Black Christmas. You can keep your religion. These are principles of African tradition. And it sounded the same way. So basically he was explaining and reassuring us. Another thing about African people. You know when we get inspired, we in church, what do? Yay. Mr. Gaddafi's talking. One man jumps up and he gets to talking in his Arabic tongue. And so I asked our interpreter, I said, oh, what's he saying? He said, and my father was killed by the Italians and blah, blah. As he jumps up, it's almost like it's perfectly timed. Mr. Gaddafi stops. He allows his people to say what they have to say. He's very polite. I see him writing. I don't know. To me, I would be writing and say, this is where I left off, you know, because I wouldn't remember what I was saying. And as the man takes his seat, he resumes talking where he wants. He goes a little further. Here's a lady over here. She jumps up. And I said, what did she say? He said, you are loved and revered everywhere. He stops. He lets her talk, do whatever. She sits down. And I said, well, black folks are the same. You get the Holy Ghost, you get the Holy Ghost, right? And he gave some folk the Holy Ghost. That was an honor to be in that gathering. A perfect honor. When we were going to leave, some of the men who he had assigned to escort us around and pick us up at the airport said, no. We want you to see this. We're going back to us. So we go through a little area, and it looked like the world just opened up. I see all of this green grass. I see a large pen of baby camel, goats, chicken. You will not see pigs. And I guess they weren't pets. I guess that's how he ate. I saw the little electric car parked, and I saw numerous tents, big tents. Because as you know, he resides in tents. And he does not stay in the same tent. All at the same time for a lot of reasons. As you know, when he came here, there was this big controversy about him staying in a tent on so-called Donald Trump's land, and they kicked them off. As if to say, I heard one of the, news people, he's disrespecting America and blah, blah. Man, he lives in a tent. The dude travels with a tent, the man travels with a tent. And I was thinking, well, those tents is large as the tents that I saw. Where they air conditioning, wall-to-wall carpeting and chandelier. The point is, it's the humility. But what we were allowed to view was very distressing in terms of the home that he formerly resided in. That was not a tent. It was a brick structure that was bombed with America's assistance in '86. And it's pretty much a museum at this point, because we were allowed to tour it. We couldn't go upstairs because they said it was still rickety. And then there's a large display of how you can read what took place. And then there's a very big book on one of the tables where you can write your condolences. And so, of course, I was decided to do that. I spent a lot of time. And being a little curious, I did want to venture off. And I did until I was pulled back. But, I didn't feel as though I was, I figured if I had crossed any boundaries, they'd let me know. And they did. I mean, I didn't just take off running. I'm going over to the house where I see the car park. I kind of wanted to explore. The grass was like perfect. It was perfectly even. And of course, I don't know how your mind runs, but I know how they do it on golf courses. And I'm going like, how did they get the grass this even? That's a big thing. But it was so pretty. It was like a paradise. It was like a paradise. And so that was the extent of our encounter with Colonel Gaddafi. So we had the opportunity to get the message directly. We had the opportunity to be encouraged about the Green Book. We had the opportunity to experience the generosity, so much generosity. And I wasn't going to tell you all this part, but I will because the men stayed in one hotel. They didn't think their hotel was as nice as our hotel. And Cynthia and I stayed in another hotel, and it was just beautiful. It was like a palace. It was like a palace. Not that we deserved it, actually. And it was gorgeous. But all of Libya is under construction. Tripoli. We didn't go outside of Tripoli. That's only one of several cities. And I'm going to stop in a minute because I know some questions I didn't answer, and I want you to ask them. But they are building homes for all of the citizens because the land does not belong to the government. The land belongs to God. And people are the caretakers of the land. And the people can live on the land. Families can live on various pieces of land, and you can pass it down from generation to generation. And it's never yours. It's your obligation to care for it and live on it. You don't pay property taxes because it ain't yours. It ain't the government's. And even what we were told was, even if people already own homes, those homes will be purchased. You will receive the proceeds, but you still live in a home built by the government to ensure that everybody has a home. You won't get this. Everybody has a home. You're not limited to, like public housing where you can only stay in each set of bricks. And the terrain, of course, was beautiful. We were on the Mediterranean. It's the longest stretch. From what I was reading, I was trying to get some information. Longest stretch of undeveloped Mediterranean beach. Okay? Imagine once it's developed, if it's ever developed, some of it needs to be repaired. Every culture is there working. The Chinese are building a hotel. Daewoo is building a hotel. I didn't see any American companies that I recognized that had those, what do you think, the things that break the ground for construction? I try to pay attention to those things, but I don't know all the American companies. Bigger than a jackhammer.
Oh,
the tractor thing. Which one?
Backhoes.
And bulldozers, those things, yeah. All of that is being developed. It's under tremendous redevelopment. Yet still, everybody seems fine. Now look, human nature is human nature. I know that there are disputes. Of course I took pictures of the police. I wanted to have a conversation, but I don't speak the language. There were several sets of police. The traffic police, one color, uniform. The police that took care of the special events, they looked like the Coast Guard. They had their little semi-automatic weapons. They turn them out where the handle is out, and they have a cord hooked onto them that's attached. I guess if somebody pulls your gun, they would have to take you with them. And also, I don't think they pull their guns that often, but I'm sure when they do, it's justified, let's just say that. I did ask about the military, because they took me to a women's military training camp. And I'm saying, what's this for? They don't have wars, but common sense says every society needs to be protected. And they do not loan their troops to other people to fight the wars for them. But they ain't crazy. They know what kind of world they live in, so they're training the women, which I'm with that. So it's highly civilized. Yes, indoor plumbing. Yes, beautiful flushing toilets and bidets. For those of you who know what a bidet is. And not to, I just want to say, that's a level, that's something that's done in Europe, and it's very good hygiene. They had some other little instrument I didn't particularly care for. I'll just say this, that you don't find tissue in the public washrooms. But they provide a means for you to make sure that you're clean. I'm being very discreet here. I just didn't learn how to operate it efficiently. So maybe I was a little wet in places. So, in essence, I mean, that's just an overview, but the point of this is really to begin to introduce the Green Book on our level and expand. I think you all need to hear one good part that I said is important about possibilities of opening academic departments in universities. We stress that maybe we don't want to open up departments in universities. Maybe we need to establish our own institutions.
Right.
And we can do that. We are encouraged to return because our work is incomplete. And at this point, I think we're supposed to be returning by the beginning of the year. So what you are witnessing is a post-conference talk. Part of it is I've agreed to do it. And I don't talk about stuff I don't believe in. So I'm glad that you all have the way that you heard via email, via the last minute interview on VON, and on my students who are here for extra credit, that you can. As a matter of fact, justice studies students, stand up, y'all. These people are getting in here. They're at Northeast Illinois University's Corella Center for Inner City Studies, where I've had the opportunity to become instructor the last 4 years. All right, with that, what did I leave out?
No.
Come on, what you got to ask me before y'all get to FX.
Couple quick questions. Number one, when was the ban lifted on the book in America? Because I would say I've been looking at that book for 15, 20 years, so they said it was banned.
It's been online forever.
Yeah, that's where I got it. Right. Another question was, in Libya, what's Black people's position in Libya in terms of the social economic level? Also, along with that, what form of government is that?
Socialism.
Social.
It's a social, that's why I said the word social, and what was the other thing I said? When I got this, social and human rights. Sorry, backwards. It's a social government, socialized government. Black people's position on what?
What's their position?
They're Black.
No, I mean like their social economic position. Are they? Because you mentioned
What,
the age
classes?
bills and stuff. Yeah.
No, you don't have classes.
Right.
There's no upper, middle, lower class.
Okay.
Education may distinguish you only because, you know, of your title possibly, but what I've noticed, what I picked up was that people who are educated, intellectualism is highly revered. Intellectualism is highly, if you have thoughts, and if you can turn those thoughts, first off, you can persuade people, and if you can turn those thoughts not necessarily into action, but to get people to act, you are considered a leader. And that is something that's highly revered. Of course, Muammar Gaddafi is going to be revered. He was a colonel in the military. He's been there for 40 years. He's brought the people around. But even with that, he kept stressing things because many people, and this is consistent, and it might be, I don't know if it's an African trait, I think it's a human trait. It's very difficult to keep people from going beyond respect to idolatry. And he's constantly trying to get people to understand, no, I'm not God. Because some of those people were like, almost, I will sacrifice. No, 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 no. And so I think there's still a process, and I don't know if it's just there, and Cam was correcting me when we were having this conversation. I don't know if it's that people are just so grateful. So grateful, I don't know, but I appreciated the way he handles it. He constantly is humbling himself to let people understand I may be all that, but I'm with y'all. And it's more than rhetoric. But it's my job because of the talent that I possess and the position that I'm in to make sure that everything is okay, in essence. And that you are living the way you're supposed to live. They kept telling us one thing: Black people are not supposed to suffer. You know how we ain't got used to it? Not only used to it, like, hey, I ain't feeling like I'm suffering today. Bring me some suffering. So that was one thing. Did I get all 3 questions?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Evan. Ezra.
Yeah, did you see how if they're building these houses, it seems like they're making everybody equal, okay?
I did not see
Bring them
poverty.
out of poverty, or?
I didn't see
you
it. I didn't see it. We went to the countryside. I didn't see like people like they were starving. I didn't see, I saw one man twice when we were going up and down the highway. He had camped out. Like he could have been a homeless man. And I asked Abdurrahman, the guy who was our guy, thanks. I said, okay, I know I'm not supposed to use the H word, but is this brother homeless? Because he had a backpack, you know, and he said, no, he chooses to be there. And I said, okay, there are no restrictions in terms of law. He said, no, he wasn't out obstructing traffic or whatever. So that was what he told me. Some people, I guess, some people just don't want to live in brick. But all the homes are brick, but everything almost is brick there. And the climate was very good. We had a problem.
Well, that could have been his home in his backpack too.
It could have, well, the next day he was in a tent
Forward.
at that location. He was in a tent at that location. Yes.
Why would the doctor live in a tent and not in a home?
My understanding, and Brother Dennis, Brother Michael, and people who maybe, others who may be more versed.
Ronald Reagan? Because he killed
My
his kids.
understanding is a result of what happened with the body.
So is he like never going to be in a home?
I don't know.
He's just gonna come-
These are homes, but you
Oh, yeah.
mean in a brick structure. See, tent, and your man is like camping out.
Right.
I described the tent with chandeliers, air conditioning.
Right.
Now I can imagine what his looks like.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Right.
Some people I did ask. I said, I asked our guy. I heard that his tents are decorated with ethnic cloth. What's the ambience? You know, women, we want to know that. You got pictures on the wall or what, right? It's scented. There are, I guess, I ain't gonna say incense, but it's scented. I guess maybe of some of them. And there are different colors. You know, it's not just the kind you put up and you're gonna be a Boy Scout or Girl Scout. I ain't like that. No, this is elaborate. And they're designed a certain way. They were designed a certain way. And I guess it was for the air and the current. And, you know, I'm not an engineer, but I know this right now in our country, people don't do things efficiently. And there was a time when I think people were trying to do things more efficiently. And that was something I asked about the design intent, aside from the natural architecture of that particular culture. Yes, sir.
I think your other point also, Pat, is that those tents give him a military cover.
Oh, yeah.
Because you don't know
Where he is.
Where he is.
Yeah.
What different
Yeah.
time. If you're in a house, you're talking.
Yeah, that's why he doesn't stay in one. Yeah. And that's, you know, I guess if someone bombed my home and killed my family, I would be concerned about all, you know, you have a target, you know. Yes.
Yeah, Pat, I had some questions. In fact, I had about 10.
Can you make it 5?
Well, one was, when you mentioned the place Pine Ridge, did you mention Pine Ridge in North Dakota? Were the Indians involved, the American Indians?
That's what they did. The visit was for the Indians.
Well, how did, for the Indians, okay. And Cynthia McKinney, does she have plans on running again? You know, they got her for, along with the Dixie Chicks, not in George Bush. You know.
She did better than the Dixie Chicks.
The money from Gaddafi that you mentioned, what Castro also wanted to do something like send the, well, Gaddafi wanted to put some oil too in the Port Cities, United States, as Castro wanted to send doctors and nurses in the city that they turned down.
As well as Hugo Chavez.
Can I say something about
Hugo Chavez, yeah.
Can I say something about the doctors? There is a program called Mission Miracle that exists. Milwaukee is the sister city to Karak. So after black people want to get some medical assistance, you can go up to Milwaukee and get that assistance. And Chavez also offered oil revenue, which Alderman Ed Smith held $24 million that was supposed to be utilized for us, only people of black and Latino descent to receive free bus cards until the $24 million expired. The city of Chicago refused the money, but the East Coast accepted, meaning the Kennedy family, yeah.
Okay, well, the reparations, I know that Mussolini, he violated the Geneva Accord by
Right.
using mustard gas because the Ethiopians fought barefooted. Now, was that the money, you know, like, I mean, I didn't know that he attacked Libya too. That caused him to get the reparations. Is that why he got reparations? Because
Here's an
Mussolini
article.
did?
That was what Gaddafi referenced. But here's an article, you can go online, I pulled it down. It's dated September 5th, 2008. It's on allafrica.com. Libya, Italy pays Libya reparations. The question is, will other colonizers follow? And it does explain what happened in terms of why they got it. But the question really was, will other regimes follow like
Ethiopia.
British? Huh?
Ethiopia, because that's how they won the battle there with Ethiopia, because they fought back for it and they put down mustard gas, which they weren't supposed to use, according to the Geneva Accord. And she mentioned about the tent. I thought the tent was for because Reagan, when they bombed them, that they killed his daughter. You know, and most of all countries, you mentioned the police force, which is actually what you call them the
Constables.
yeah, but they got a name in Chinese that they also use for that. They use
What's that, General? What's that?
my mind on this slow, but I think that's why. Mostly all countries have a secret police. They have that. You got the CIA. Did you encounter any?
No, I don't think I would know that. They would be secret.
Yes. Okay, and also when you mentioned the women, you know, being involved in all countries, most of them got more females than males. The same principle.
I saw more males. I mean, I stressed that. I saw women driving pickup trucks. I saw women doing a lot of different things. But in the public, I saw virtually men. And I'm not saying that women weren't, because they were out. And I don't know what the ratio is. I'm going to find out only because I'm curious the way it is here. But I don't know what the ratio is.
Okay, there was something like Green Book. You know, Germany had a rapper called Danny the Red. Remember? Well, what happened to Danny the Red?
I don't know. I don't know familiar with Germany. I'm not talking about Germany. I don't know, but I'm familiar with the fact that it existed.
So how about Cynthia McKinney?
I'll answer that question, because I asked her about that. He asked if she planned to run for office again. She mentioned to me that people have approached her in Georgia to run for senator. And it wasn't like a personal conversation, and I pretty much asked her, why would you do that? You are being asked to speak all over the world and go to places where there is turmoil and injustices. When she left a day earlier than us from Libya going to Malaysia. Since we returned from Libya, I think she hasn't been home. She just got home, yesterday maybe?
She was home yesterday and then left for the UK following morning.
Right. She is on the road constantly, generally outside of the United States. I understand in theory possibly, but you know, we only have a prescribed time to be here. And I think that the worth and the value that she has from the way that they responded to her and the things that she says and the way people here in Chicago and other places I've been with her gravitate, I wouldn't do it. But again, if you've been in politics, electoral politics as long as her, possibly, you know, you might consider it. But I think she's moving away from that. I do think she's moving away from that. And it would be somewhat contradictory based on some of the stuff that we're doing now. She formed a group that we all part of now called Dignity. And you can go online. What's the
It's livestream.com/dignity.
right, livestream.com/.
Regular /
/dignity. And the reason why the group is called Dignity is because everywhere she went, when she was campaigning before, all the people, the resonating underlying tone was people want their dignity. And so it's not an acronym for anything, it means dignity. And so that is something that we all can embrace because, as you very well know, we are disrespected and we are not given or have not lived up to what we deserve to have in regards to dignity. So I can't tell you if she's going to run, but she has mentioned that people have approached her to run for senator.
Okay.
And I said, come to Chicago because Roland is not going to run. And all of those candidates that are there, all of them, I ain't missing nobody, have been put up by either the Daily Administration or Madigan, but not us. And so we kind of laughed and I left it at that. But I don't know, if she came, you know, we get a residence, you know, saying that and people campaigning and working for you and create, I think we better off doing some other things with our time.
And that tournament I was trying to think of was a hatchet man.
Hatchet man?
Hatchet man,
Okay.
yes. Which I think of most of the guys on the Chicago policemen are hatchet men of the establishment also.
In one way or another, I agree with you.
And that VH1 you're talking about, can you get it on the regular channels?
Oh, yeah, VH1 is all over, because it's a music station. It's music. And I just want to see the cultural side. And it was actually in the area, and no, the young ladies were not doing, you know, right. But it was the groups from around the world. And, but you can get on these stages. I've seen hip hop in Turkey and things like that. So some of this stuff is global. But
Do they give
VH1
news
is
on VH1?
Huh?
Do they give news on VH1?
No, it's video music.
They
Pop
show
music.
stupid reality shows of black people embarrassing themselves.
Shaking behind him.
Anybody else, Mrs. Cherry?
Not trying to put you on the spot, but in a few sentences, what would you say to young people, the 20-somethings, the 30-somethings, about travel to Libya, possibly living there? I'll just leave it like that.
First thing I would say is get the Green Book and read it, okay? Especially at that age, because you already don't really know. You don't know enough about this government. So I would like to impress on their semi-blank minds that you get this book and read it. And then attend formal settings such as this, where you can get a proper interpretation of things and begin to implement them, because we need them. That's the truth. And as we develop, hopefully, these exchange, we're trying to develop exchange. An exchange with Libya here. And I'm going to take 2 more questions, and then we got to do one more thing, and then you will receive your book. Skip and this young lady here.
Pat, before we leave here, are we working on a new means of communication for those who really seeking out to hear and get the truth from other than the conventional ways of what we have? Well, we hadn't caught you on WVON. Our craft would need to stand. You know, now we need to go to a think shop, some kind of way. The average one of us have access to a computer, one way or the other. But it's got to be a faster way of communication. So when it jumps on there, we can be there at the moment's notice.
I agree with you. And here's what we're doing. We're not necessarily, it's faster, but it's an alternative. Most of the people in this room are here tonight either because I personally asked you or you're on my email listserv. And if you're not, please make sure your email address is there, because I've learned through some people in terms of the value of that. Brother Robert X, FX, he's progressive brother, see? And other people and Cam, that we can communicate and organize. Just briefly, I will tell you for the record, I'm not telling you something I don't know, but I can tell you for the record, one of the main reasons why Chicago did not get the Olympics was because we organized so tough on that internet. We did it as an experiment. We organized through the UN. We organized on an international level without going on white corporate media-dominated news television. We let Daly and them do that. And they didn't have a clue. We didn't say anything. We beat the talking drum. We did all the stuff that we knew to do. That when Daly and them went to Geneva, and they gave that presentation, and people are calling me that night, girl, wake up, you got to know, I know what's going to happen, that the International Olympic Committee had made up their mind, not only did Chicago ain't going to be considered, they didn't even make the first round, and they viewed their presence there as a nuisance. Would they hurry up and get through, please, because we really don't want them here, because we already have heard from the people we need to hear from that this ain't going to be what the deal is. And they didn't help their case. We were We were committees of one. We were the Olympic Human Rights Project at Chicago. We were John Carlos. We were all of these people that folks say, oh, yeah. Oh, Pat Hill, okay, fine. And that's a victory. That's a victory. So you can't tell me that we ain't doing something right. And I'm saying, I am totally satisfied that this room ain't filled up. Because the people who want to know are going to know. And other people taking up space. And I'm not being mean, because I'm not going to kick anybody out of a room. But we need to encourage people sometimes, give them a little help. Look, I know you don't understand, but you go with me. Anything you don't understand, I'll run it down to you. And that's what we need to do. So, yes, VON, we can't even depend on VON. I was just fortunate enough to finally get on. But we had scheduled 3 times for me to be on this show. And we did get on yesterday. It was postponed because Danny's aide, the food everybody. So Congressman Davis had to get on the radio and talk about how he got tricked. And then we didn't get on the night before because something else they thought was more important. And I thank Cliff for allowing it, because it's not his station. He is an employee. Ain't the best loved employee over there.
Right.
But we are streaming this right now. We're streaming this live on the internet right now. And then it's going to be taped. That's why Don is here, Brother Brian Spencer. Brother Spencer, let me tell you, we were here earlier today. Okay, I'm going to hurry up. Y'all talked about the technology. And I'm learning this stuff because I didn't grow up with this. You know, my 11-year-old granddaughter's like, nah, what's taking you so long? Girl, I don't know how to compute this stuff. Brother Spencer is Pastor Sharkey's guy. I'm sorry. Ooh. You know I didn't mean that. Ooh.
That's my pastor.
Anyway.
Can you lock up a police woman?
I am so sorry.
No,
But Reverend Sampson's guy. Now, how did he get to be Reverend Sampson's guy? This building, I was stunned when I came in here and he said, oh, come on downstairs. Well, first we will come up here. Reverend Sampson had some senior citizens stepping in here today. Y'all hear me? Step in. So we had to move to another room. Took us downstairs. Computers. All over the place. Okay? He is digitally, what's the word? Connected, hooked up. And this brother said, oh yeah, by the way, I have to interview you now. I said, no, I ain't ready. Yes, I do. Instantly, they put a little green screen downstairs, put the drive up, hooked me up, and I'm live, right, giving an interview. Brother Don came here, he said, I want to make sure y'all stream. He said, but you already have a link. They talking that tech talk. Yeah, you got a link, you got a whatever. The point that I'm making is, we're there. We're there. Don't be afraid of the computer. It is monitored. Yes, the internet is monitored. I have had Secret Service training. The internet is monitored. So what? They got your social security number already, and they got your fingerprint. It's done. Kyle dead, so they already know. And they do ultra-sensitive heat, laser, and beaming on your crib on a regular basis. So, what did Brother say? You got nothing to fear but fear itself. Okay, as Gil Scott Harris said, panic now, avoid the rush. I'm not panicking. It's done. But we can communicate because they cannot monitor everything at the same time. And if we do it consistently, oh yeah, somebody else is going to do it. Because remember, there are 635 folk who run that government. I'm talking about government, Congress, all that. And there are how many people in this country? And we will not talk about how many people in the world. I don't care what you got. They can't monitor it all at the same time. Because in monitoring, you have to have somebody watching. And in watching it, you have to spill a tape. Somebody's got to read it. They're going to miss it. You know how I know they're not foolproof? Because they miss me getting on the police department. Okay, so I want to thank, sister, thank you, Spencer. Because I was getting ready. Girl, you so quiet.
Would you please tell me what class you teach, and must you be registered full-time to take the class?
Thank you. I do teach in the regular university curriculum. And virtually everybody there is, yeah, you have to be registered. You can just be registered for one class. No, not full time. You can just say, I want to register for next class.
And what's the name of it?
I teach 3 now. I was teaching 2. This class, I teach 1 class a semester. And now I'm going to teach 2 classes. This class is police in the minority community. And I scratch out the word minority because we had to define that. The next class I teach in the fall is crime, violence, and culture. And I'm also going to teach at the main campus next year will be theories and criminal behavior. First time I've ever taught it, so I'm researching it. And I can just name some people to get some theories, you know, I mean, like that's a criminal, and then White Houses and things like that. But the point that I'm making is, yes, you have to be a registered student. You can be moving towards a degree or not moving towards a degree. I am an adjunct professor, I'm part-time. I'm not tenured, anything like that. You have to, I don't have a PhD. Okay, did I get everybody's question? Because I have to do this.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Can you take a minute and tell the people here how they try to share you on your pension?
I'll tell them one-on-one, but I don't want to take the time. That's like days gone by. Because of people, we were victorious, and I did it. Okay? Yes. JR is going to say something, but I have to say this to you, so get prepared. I don't do this very well. I am not a preacher, but the lights are on.
That's
Put
right.
something in the bed.
The heat, okay. See that going right there? Drop some money in there. Walk around, come back to your seats after you drop the money in there. And while you're doing that, JR, say what you got to say. We're past 8 o'clock.
It was just to follow up that brother question about, it seemed like that was a call for some type of independent media. Brother Spencer be aware of something. This brother right here be aware of something. Like internet, television. What we need to start electing to is start to break out and give our own independent avenue communication so we can afford to build a website, afford to retain somebody to stream everything we can live.
Okay? As soon as everybody's seated, I'll make sure in an orderly fashion that we disseminate these 3 books.
Did you say that you got some type of video that you do?
Yes. Yeah, we've been streaming using livestream.com.
Oh, you have a business card?
I didn't bring anything, but I can write something down.
Okay, you all, our time is past 8. I want to do this so you get your books. I appreciate you staying beyond. Remember, November 27th. This is how I do in class in my house. Folks still moving around. But if you miss it, you miss it. November 27th. Past F.
Yeah, I have a shot.
You got something going on here there for Thanksgiving.
Now, let me tell you. November 27th is my birthday.
Oh, really? We'll bring a cake.
So,
That's a Friday.
yeah, it's after Thanksgiving. So here's the point. Spencer, just coordinate with Spencer. And because I will be out of town.
Okay.
But you got the place.
Okay.
This is always on the way.
Okay. Before you get the book, November 27th, thank you.
Yeah.
We're going to do the forum on the child soldier.
My email address.
6 o'clock. Fill up the
The
room.
other thing is here. You can have it here all the time.
I want to come to Garden Hall like I was.
Yeah, I'm saying, because of the answer. But here's the other thing. If you design the leaflet, you know, we could do
I'll email it to you.
5,000-10,000 leaflets.
We'll get on it Monday.
And
Okay?
those of you who are in the world,
Yeah, that's cool.
Let me just for a minute. Those of you who are in the computer world, you know, our church was out there when, what's our boy's name that did Y2K?
One in Troy?
No. Yeah, but with Brown. With Brown. Tony Brown moved, came in this town on Y2K. And we put about 3,000 people at all of our meetings. Another couple of thousand came here. And he told us that we've got to get into the computer piece. That was 99 going into 2000. And my bottom line is, if you have any underground way of getting better computers for us as a church, I got about 40 of them downstairs. But we're trying to really move into the when JR came here with the United Nations repertoire, we filmed that. And we have the capacity to turn it into a DVD. And Brother Spencer, God bless him, because we have no grant. I mean, you know, they're filming downstairs now with a group that's doing a whole sports show. So we're trying to kick our stuff up to go 24/7. If you see FX, tell him that I want him to come, because he's got a whole lot of tapes
That FX right there?
that he's done before.
That FX right there?
Oh, no, he's not. Got a whole lot of tapes that he's done before. All the brothers and sisters in Cable Access Network. You can bring your stuff over now, and we can put it online and send it out there. I mean, I really appreciate, for example, Munir Muhammad. He's on WJYS now, and he's streaming live. So to get our message out and to get out there in the universe, nobody can arrest you. That's the genius of it all. You can say what you want to say and nobody's going to hurt you. So we're hoping to get Pat to develop a show where she'll keep bringing people in once a week, twice a week. I'm blessed. Week. You could do your lectures.
We'll discuss it later. Come on now.
All right. But you need to film your lectures. Give a round of applause, y'all. And look, we need to give this sister a standing ovation because she's been out there. Too young to remember, but one of my members reminded me, we had a group called Citizens for Self-Determination with Nate Clay, Lonzo Banyan, and we met down in the basement, and Pat was one of the founding members. But at some moment, whenever you find out when her birthday is, we need to do a major banquet honoring Pat Hill. With her and Renal, remember Renal Robinson? All the disrespect. Putting Renal Robinson in the alley and all of that. We blow the history of our heroes and our sheroes. So some of the sisters here, find out, give us some wine. I'm going to give you permission. Give us some wine. And find out when her birthday is, because we need to do a Pat Hill Day in this town to give her a cover when white people know that we love our own, they kind of back up for 5 minutes on the whole question of character assassination and in the military assassination. So I want y'all who love her and appreciate her, find out so we can have a Pat Hill Day. Thank you very much.
I'm gonna say good night, but I want to touch you when you get the book, because I'm bringing it, I'm a conduit, okay? I'm bringing it from Libya. I can't sign them, and we We didn't get the colonel to sign them, but I'm bringing it through. So let's just do this very orderly. But the 27th is really important. And when you come back on the 27th, I want you, this is your assignment, I want you to have read